Welcome to Made in Alpharetta, the only podcast dedicated to showcasing what makes Alpharetta so awesome. Today's show is brought to you by the Alpharetta Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm your host, Kathleen Sturgeon. Today's episode is very exciting. It's a very cool addition to Downtown Alpharetta, or it's highlighting a cool addition, and it gives it kind of a retro vibe, which I feel like it has needed. As you know, somebody who grew up here, obviously, I know the mall and all the regular places, but it is Comeback Vinyl. And be sure to listen for the secret word to enter online later in the episode for a chance to win a gift card to the store. So without further ado, joining me in the studio today are Alex and Karen Vernon, the co-owners of Comeback Vinyl. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
So how are you guys doing today? Good?
Awesome. Trying to stay warm. It's so cold and windy outside.
It is. I was going to say it's a good day to listen to music, but every day is a good day to listen to music, right?
Yeah, we were putting up Christmas decorations before we walked down.
Oh, that's
hanging wreaths
fun.
outside the store.
Oh, that's cool. Were you listening to Christmas music on vinyl?
Actually, we weren't listening to any music because we were working outside.
You were focused.
We don't have speakers outside, so.
Awesome. So can you kind of start from the very beginning for me? So where did the idea for Comeback Vinyl come from? Why did you guys decide this is a good idea? Let's do this.
It started for me as just an interest in vinyl. I didn't know anybody that was into vinyl, but I knew it was happening. I knew that people were getting interested in it again. This is probably around 2012, and I asked my parents if they would get me a turntable for Christmas. I was just kind of wanting to see what it was all about, and they did. And I started going to record stores and buying records from, different dealers. I was in college at the time, so I was stopping, along my way from driving to Atlanta to college and hitting record stores and flea markets and stuff and buying records. And that just kept evolving in a further interest. And my mom, Karen, opened a booth at an antique mall, the Green Bean Exchange, which they don't have an Alpharetta location anymore, but at the time it was in Alpharetta, and was selling a bunch of different antiques, but she had 2 crates of records at some point, and that's where it started. And I came home from college for a summer, and I wasn't working. I was just taking a break from school, and I wanted to help her with that. And we started, going to estate sales and trying to find people that had records for sale and buying collections. And for me, at first, it was I wanted to build my collection, and that was like a cool way to do it. And I was just kind of interested in the selling side of it as well. And so we were just kind of working on that together. And we would wake up at 6:30 on a Thursday morning and go stand in line in an estate sale for an hour and go in with our boxes and load up on some stuff we thought we could resell and some stuff that we wanted to keep. And to backtrack a little bit further, though, before that started, we retrieved her record collection from her brother's house in Mississippi. It had gone through Hurricane Katrina in his garage. It was 400 records, 4 crates, and they were all water damaged. And so we spent a good bit of time, months, going through each record. And, they had mildew and dust and stuff on them, but we were able to clean the vinyl off. It was just the jackets that were damaged. And so we're tearing jackets apart. We were just cringing at the sound of these jackets tearing. But it was just super cool for me to go through and see all of the records my mom was listening to when she was my age. And I think it was really cool for her to do that with me. And that just started this hobby together. It wasn't really a business at first. It was just something fun that we were doing together because we both love music. And I was just at a point in my life where I wasn't in school and I didn't have a job, and it was I had the time, and she had just recently retired from her previous job, and so she had the time, and it was just a lot of fun to do. So to shorten it a little bit, we just kept growing that booth at the antique mall, and we branded it Comeback Vinyl and created an Instagram and a Facebook page and started putting our stuff out on Google so that people would know where we were. We had an address, but we were inside this antique mall, and we just kept building that. I had to go back to school, and she just kind of continued it without me for, I think, a semester. And then I was getting ready to graduate, and, we had continued to grow the business over time. We got a bigger booth. We had some professional displays built, and we were starting to make a little bit more money. And I thought, well, I need to get a job. It's making a profit. We can grow it, and maybe I'll be able to make a living doing this. I don't know, but now's the time to try. And I kind of reasoned it to my parents, like, look, a lot of people graduate from college and they just go travel Europe for a year and like figure out what they want to do with their lives. And they spend a lot of money and they spend a lot of time just like in that segue period of your life. And I was like, I want to do that with this. And like, if I lose money on this and I waste all the time, at least I tried and I like got some experience running a business, but it was never something I was 100% on. It was like, this is a risk and I know it's a risk. And my parents were super supportive of that. And, they loaned me some money to help get started, but it was still like every dime we made, we were putting back into the business. And I was living at home for 2.5 years. Everything we made was just being reinvested into the business so we could grow our inventory and get a better, marketing presence and et cetera, et cetera. So that's like the long end of how it got started, I guess.
Probably pretty short, actually. There were a lot of things along the way, but we kind of thought, what's the worst that can happen? We end up with a lot of great records and, but we didn't know. We learned a lot as we went along. The first step was, can we find a retail location that we can afford? I mean, just putting it all together, neither of us had any business experience, definitely not owning a retail shop. So, it's been a journey.
Yeah, so our first store was 700 square feet, and it was just like a mile down the road from where we are now. Our current store is 2,000 square feet, so it was much smaller. And it wasn't full of records when we first opened. So we were there for 3 years, and then November of 2017, we moved into the location in Downtown Alpharetta where we are now.
And how did you pick that location? I mean, besides the fact that it is Downtown Alpharetta, how did you realize that would be a good place?
Yeah, well, we wanted to be in the downtown because it's been growing so much lately, and we wanted to be a part of that. Obviously, we'd be getting a lot more foot traffic there. So the previous location we had was a shopping center, so it was just strictly drive up, and we wanted to have that foot traffic. And we also just wanted to be involved in what's going on downtown. There's music festivals going on. We wanted to be a part of that. We wanted to be in the center of that. So for the last few events, we've been walking around downtown, handing out koozies to people that have, drinks in their hands, just saying, hey, like, this is who we are. We're not trying to solicit or anything, but just like be involved. Like, hey, we're giving out free stuff, and being a part of the community is much easier to do when you're in the center of the community. And that was a big reason for it.
Yeah, we were our destination location before, which is, in some ways, it's okay for our business because with collectors, they will find you. And so if you're in a more obscure location and you are pretty good at getting the word out via social media or whatever means, they will find you. But this location has completely transformed our business. I mean, obviously, as you know, you can't miss it when you drive by. And so the volume of people that didn't know we had already been in business for 3 years, I mean, it's incredible. Every day people come in, how long have you been here? They're shocked to learn we've been doing this for a few years now. And but it brings in a lot of people who have records to sell and who are just getting into it. So it's the location has been amazing.
Yeah, it's a prime spot right there,
Totally,
too. Right
yeah.
on the corner, because you can see it coming from any direction, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I kind of want to get into, you guys are mother and son, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So can you talk to me a little bit about that? How does that dynamic work? So at the very beginning, when you guys decided to start this, did you worry about going into business with your family?
Well, I think that we were too excited about the whole concept of it, right? And so, it was so much fun in the beginning. And then, as we opened the freestanding store, we quickly kind of figured out that we would definitely have to assign roles and that, decisions had to ultimately be made by one person. And that person is Alex. I mean, this is his shop, I say, and, I'm along for the ride. And that's kind of still how I look at it. I have certain roles within the business, but ultimately he is running the show and makes decisions. And so, yeah, it was, there were periods when, we were trying to figure it out and, it got a little stressful because, like you said, it is a family thing and, mother and son and, you'll do anything for your children, right, that you can to help them be successful. But, we have really developed a strong business partnership, as equal adults, I think now. So... Yeah. You
Yeah,
have
and I
anything
think,
else?
I mentioned at the beginning of the business, I was living at home, and it's it was hard not to take business home with you when your business owner, your coworker is living in the same house. It like never stopped. So we had made a rule like fairly early on, like, okay, let's just not talk about comeback vinyl at the dinner table because there's just more to life. And it was, just something where we wanted to still have a relationship as mother son and not just business owners. And like Karen mentioned, those are just all things that we worked out over time, and um, that's just been it was a little bit of a growing curve at first, but it's also super beneficial that we're mother and son. Like, there's no question of trust. We absolutely trust each other, and I think for any business, like, you want to trust who you're in business with, obviously, but everyone knows that it's easier to trust family. I mean, I've known her my whole life. So there's a lot of pros to it, and we communicate well because we've been communicating with each other for my whole life. So there's definitely some benefits to it, and there was also some things that we kind of had to figure out.
Do you call her Karen or Mom?
So when we're not at the store, I call her Mom, but when we're at the store, I call her Karen, and we're talking about work, I call her Karen, and it just kind of like helps me separate it in my mind between, like, she's my coworker at the store and she's Karen, and when she's not, like, I'm her son and I have to listen to what she says.
Well, no, but it's also, we have other employees around, and I think it like he said, it divides that into a professional environment versus, but every now and then I'll hear him say Mom, and, around other people, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it kind of sounds weird, like, I don't want all of our customers thinking of her as Alex's mom. She's her own person.
No, but
she's
there are a
Karen.
lot of people that come to the store and go, "Oh, you're the mom." I'm like, "Yeah."
That's why I have to call her Karen.
I am. Good guess. I'm the mom.
Oh, that's sweet. So do you have other children?
I do. I have a younger son. He's a couple years younger than Alex, and he moved out to California this summer and works at Google. Oh, wow. And so 2 boys.
What does he think about this?
Oh, he's kind of been riding along with us and watching this all happen too. I mean, yeah, he's been so supportive, and I had lunch with him today.
Logo.
He had his comeback vinyl sweatshirt on.
Oh.
Yeah, he's representing. So yeah.
I was just saying I interrupted. He designed our first logo.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
How could I forget that? There's so many details along the way to
It's like
remember.
a full circle family.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Karen's brother, my uncle, helped me build all the displays that are in the store. So it's been like a super family business involved. My dad helps with a lot of the financial stuff. So it's been like a real family effort.
And so has music always been kind of a big thing for your family?
Yeah, I think primarily Alex and I are more into it than anybody else.
Yeah,
But-
and my other uncle Mike, our other brother, that had the records
Yes.
in his garage.
Right.
The three of us and your dad, we're all really interested
Yes,
in music.
exactly. So I guess, several generations. When I moved over to Georgia, I didn't have room in my car to put my record collection. And it was near, mid-late 80s, and vinyl was making its way out and CDs were making their way in. And I thought, well, I'll get those. I'll go back and get those. And I didn't. And my brother took them with him. And as you heard earlier, they ended up in Hurricane Katrina, but
But you still have them, right?
I still have them. And you know what's funny? Even though they're damaged, I pretty much just want those copies. It's a funny thing how records become a part of your past. And so I could easily get a brand new copy of, my Led Zeppelin 4 album, but the one I have, that's water damaged was mine that I played when I was 17. And so I'm very sentimental that way about it. But anyway, didn't mean to go down that little side path.
No, I think that's what makes vinyl. I mean, the memories that are associated with them, like the feelings that people get when they have them or when they see them or when their parents pass them down to them, anything like that. So how do you guys deal with the kind of different generations that you guys are from and bringing that into your business?
Oh, I think that really helps us actually, because, I have a different perspective on it. My first job was working at a record store, and So, you know, I already had a big base knowledge, especially of like the classic rock from the 70s and 80s, where Alex brings in, you know, music really more from the 90s and 2000s. So that's kind of a benefit, I think, for us.
Yeah, but you kind of touched on the, the appeal of vinyl to a lot of people is the experience, and it's different for different people, and it can definitely be different for different people just depending on how old they are. So there's a lot of our customers that grew up listening to records and they sold them at one point or gave them away or whatever, and they're buying them again. And it's a huge nostalgia trip for them. They can walk into the store and see something and it triggers a memory about an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. It just takes them back to a period in their life. And that is so cool. And I experienced that a little bit with music, but I just haven't lived that long. So for me, like I can hear a song that I haven't listened to since I was in high school and I can remember like being in high school, but I can't imagine feeling that same feeling 4 decades later, you know, and I think vinyl does that for a lot of people, and that's amazing. And we also get people that are, you know, I'm 27, we get people that are my age, we get people that are in high school that are younger, and I think for younger people, they never knew what a record was until this whole resurgence started happening because their parents weren't listening to records anymore. I think they'd probably be lucky if they knew what a CD was because for all of their life where they were like making choices about what they're going to listen to, it's all streaming. They certainly don't know what an 8-track is. There's no way.
I don't think I do either.
It's a form of tape that came before cassettes.
Oh no!
It looks like a kind of like a Nintendo video game cartridge that you stuck into like a
Okay.
Right.
Sure.
very short-lived format, like heavily flawed.
Yeah, heavily flawed indeed. Poor sound quality.
But I think for everybody, regardless of what the experience is, a huge appeal of vinyl is the experience of going into a record store, feeling the records in your hand, reading the liner notes, having the big cover art in your face, buying the record, going home, putting it on your shelf, alphabetizing it with the rest of your albums, having friends over, getting the record out, putting it on the turntable. It's a whole experience. It's a whole step process. It's highly inconvenient, but it's an experience in a world where we're just trapped in our phone looking for something to entertain us. And this is something that you can go out and do. It's a hobby. You know, it's not just that you like listening to music. You like shopping for records. You like cataloging your record collection. You like getting records out and putting them on the turntable. Those are all the reasons I think vinyl's coming back. And especially right now when music is so accessible on our phones. And young people can experience that. Older people can experience that. Anybody can experience that.
And I also think that the format brings not only all of those experiences, but especially for a younger generation that's used to streaming a song by that artist and a song by another, when they have a record, they've got a complete album, which brings the entire package of what that artist intended that song to be a part of.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, not just this song is a hit, but you've got a complete record album.
Like a story, yeah.
It absolutely is. So it's like a movie, right? You don't just watch a clip, you watch the entire thing. And it is taken then within the context of that album as a complete package. And that's another thing that, aside from the format, that's what it brings them if they'll listen to the whole thing throughout. And like you said, they've got the lyrics on the sheets that they can read. So. And sing along to, like I did when I was growing up.
That's a great point. It's something that got lost for a long time with just listening to singles. And, you know, when the CD came about, it was so cool to make a compilation mix. That's what we used to do in high school, right? We'd burn a CD for our friends and compile a playlist, which is cool. And, like, people still do that on Spotify or streaming or whatever. You can still get that. But imagine if you were just only watching, like, trailers for movies and seeing all the good parts. Why wouldn't you want to watch the whole thing and like hear the whole story? I think that's what Karen's getting at with the album is like, why were we not including that? I don't know, but I think people realize they want a whole album now.
Those are good points. I never really thought about them like that. But you can tell your passion, both of you, kind of shines through, and so I guess that's good reason to be in business, right? In this business and why you're successful.
Yeah, we're definitely in it because we love music and we love vinyl and we love sharing it with people and talking to people about it. That's 100% why we're in business.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most exciting things that happens in the shop is when you're playing a record and somebody comes up and looks at, you know, that jacket on the now playing stand and says, can I buy this? We're like, absolutely. Everything in here is for sale, and so they buy the record you're playing. You just turned them on to something that either they had heard and forgotten about or they'd never heard. Like, oh man, this is really awesome. That is the coolest thing that happens in the shop. But yeah, obviously sharing in a number of ways experiences about music is great. So those are all the fun things about it. It's, it's a business at the end of the day, but that's what's so fun.
We are going to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsor. We will be right back. Planning a wedding, reunion, or corporate meeting in Alpharetta? The Alpharetta Convention and Visitor Bureau offers a variety of complimentary event planning resources to help you during your event or meeting planning process. Their expert team will help you find event venues and meeting space around the area, secure group hotel room nights at Alpharetta's 25 hotels, and provide you with free visitor information to share with your Alpharetta hotel guests. Visit awesomealpharetta.com to learn more. Welcome back to Made in Alpharetta. We are still in studio with Comeback Vinyl, Alex and Karen. So you guys talked about it a little bit at the beginning, from moving a mile down the road into downtown Alpharetta. So what growth have you guys seen? How has business been since you initially opened your doors?
It's picked up a lot. The store was not full of records when we first opened. We just had so many expenses with new displays and signage and renovations and everything. We just couldn't afford it, but we couldn't pass up the opportunity. We had to move. So we just recently, in the last 3 or 4 months, have filled the store with records and have gotten all of our displays completely full. And I think we can't really know how much business is going to pick up until we achieve that, which we now have. But it's definitely picked up. We've been doing a lot more business. We're seeing new people all the time, whereas at our other store, we were mostly having regular customers come in, which is great. Of course, we love our regulars, but we just weren't seeing a lot of growth in people finding out about us. It seemed like we'd kind of in 3 years maxed out on the amount of people that are going to find out about us. Of course, there was some people still trickling in that were finding out, but with this move to downtown, it's been complete game changer on the terms of people finding out about us, because you can't really drive through Alpharetta without seeing the shop.
And also within the last year, we've seen at almost 100% completion now, City Center. So when we first moved in, that was just getting started. And wow, we've come a long way in a year. So that has been, I think, a good benefit for us and our business.
Yeah, it'll be killer after everything gets open. Yeah. I think once downtown Alpharetta is finished, people are going to be driving from Sandy Springs, Duluth, coming just to spend the whole day.
A destination place
to go. Yeah, there'll be so much to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. I was going to ask you guys what your thoughts were on City Center. And
love it. Yeah, I love it. We're very positive with people that come in and ask about it, because there are people that there's so much traffic and what's going on here, but we think it's all positive. I mean, everything.
Yeah, it's great.
The tenants are all more local focused instead of chains, and I love what they're doing. I'm happy with architecturally what they are designing. So there are kinks to work out, and they're working on them as far as parking and that kind of thing. But no, I think it's been great for our business, and we're super excited about it all.
Yeah. And so how do you touched on it a little bit about how a lot of teenagers or young adults kind of just use online for their music. So how do you make it so that people want to have that experience of vinyl?
Well, I think our store in particular is laid out in a way that's very organized and easy to look through stuff. So you're going from a very simple, quick online search platform like Apple Music or Spotify or whatever you're using, to having to go into a store and navigate that. And by having the store laid out, we've got large dividers in the back of each crate telling you which genres in that crate and whether or not the records are new or used. And then within each crate, we have alphabet letter tabs, so you know if you're in the A section or the B section, whatever. And then in front of all that, we've got artist tabs that are in alphabetical order. So it's very organized, I think even more so than a library, because a library is just going to give you, or Barnes & Noble store is just going to give you, A through Z. There's no real markers like here's the Ernest Hemingway section, but we've got tons of popular bands, divider tabs, and making it very organized and accessible, I think helps. So you're not just having to dig for hours through unorganized stuff and not being able to find what you want. It's very clear cut. Like if that divider card's empty, we don't have any of those records right now. You don't have to flip through a bunch of different bins, which can be a problem, in some other record stores. And I think we have a really, attractive, cool looking shop. I think that that's part of our branding strategy is like having this cool store where it's like a fun place to hang out. And like we like to go to places that are cool, and we know that other people like to go to places that are cool. So, I'm not trying to like toot our own horn, but I think our store looks pretty nice, and that's one of the ways that we try to attract, younger people that are interested in going out and doing cool things.
You want it to be like a whole experience for them, not
Totally.
just come in, pick up what they need, leave.
Yeah, it's totally. You come in, you feel at home. You're greeted as soon as you walk in. We ask you if you need any help finding anything. If you want to hear a record, we have a listening station in the store with headphones, so you can check out any record that's open. We share our Wi-Fi password with people, so if they want to look up a record that's sealed that they can't play, they can check it out on their phone. We totally want people to feel welcome, and we're happy to answer questions. Vinyl can be really intimidating for a lot of people that have never gone into it before. Like the idea of a phono stage and an amplifier is super foreign to most people that didn't grow up listening to vinyl, and we're more than happy to walk them through that. And it can be even challenging to read about it online and figure it out, but we can give you a quick rundown and get you going. It's 100% the experience of walking into the store, feeling at home, looking around, reading liner notes and hype stickers on records that you've never seen before. That's something that we're really big on, is kind of, we want to be able to put stuff in the store that people are going to like that they don't even know about yet. And you can just come in looking for whatever you're looking for and find something you've never seen and be like, wow, this is really cool. Let me check this out real quick. You listen to it and you're like, oh my God, this song is amazing. I'm going to buy this record. Like, I'm rolling the dice. I'm going to buy this record because this song rocks. And then you get home and you hear the whole album for the first time and you're like blown away. That's so cool. Like, you can't get that online, You can get a suggested artist or whatever on Spotify, but then when you listen to the album, you're like, okay, yeah, I can see why they said this. Like, this sounds a lot like all the other stuff I listen to. But if you come into a store and you read a hype sticker that says, like, pressed in 1971, like, limited run of 100 copies, private press, like, out of print for 3 decades, like, collector's market goes for $10,000, you're like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Psychedelic rock from the 1960s, like, bass player from Cream, you're like, oh, wow, even better. And then you listen to it on your phone, you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. That's an experience. That's comeback vinyl. That's not going to happen on Amazon or Spotify. And it's so much fun to provide people with that experience.
Wow. I know, right? I mean, that convinced me. So do you guys have regulars? You talked about that, about your old location. I was going to say other store. That had regulars that would come and...
Yeah, even starting with the antique mall. We got the word out for just people coming in, but also after we set up... a Facebook and Instagram, Alex started finding vinyl collectors, and they found us in that antique mall. So we have a lot of customers that we've known since that very beginning, and they have followed us all along. And then more that we got to know in the previous location, and they're the best. I mean, they're so supportive, and they understand that, you can buy records online. You can get them anywhere, but they understand that it's important to shop, at a local store. If you want to have that experience and have those connections, you need to support your local store, and everything can't be just bought off of eBay and Amazon without shopping local. So
yeah, it's a neighborhood experience. We have a lot of local customers that we're super grateful for, and it's way more fun for us to recognize people when they come in and greet them by their first name and like ask them about things that we know are going on in their lives. That's so cool. And when I was growing up as a kid, like I don't remember ever seeing people experience that. I don't think you get that at big box retailers. I think you do it some, but it gets lost, and that's just one of the many reasons why it's so important to shop local. And we just got done celebrating Small Business Saturday this past Saturday, and it's things like that are just a reminder of the importance of shopping local, and we're super happy to be a local business. We're very proud to be a local business in Alpharetta.
Yeah. And how do you guys decide which records to put in the store?
There's 2 reasons why we would put a record for sale in the store. One, we think that it's something that people want, or we know it's something people want, meaning we've sold it before, or we think, oh yeah, people are going to want to buy this. We'll put this in the store and we'll sell it. The second reason would be because we really like it and we want people to know about it. and those are much harder to sell, but it's much more fun for us to kind of like cater our shop towards our taste, and I think it gets appreciated by some people, and that's kind of a common thing in like the record store culture is pretty much any record store you go to kind of has its own flair and its own flavor, and that's what makes record stores so unique. If you go into a Target, every Target has pretty much the same selection. They might have different stuff depending on like the area that you're in, but it's pretty much the same stuff, and it's the same stuff on their website. But part of the fun of going to record stores is not only seeing what they have in the used bins that is changing all the time, but just seeing the new selection that like the staff has curated and getting turned on to music that way. It's cool.
What is your favorite album or favorite record? What was your first and what is your favorite?
I am sad to say I cannot remember my first album. It's true. I just grew up really enjoying the early singer-songwriters like Joni Mitchell, Bonnie Raitt, and Jackson Browne, James Taylor, those artists, as well as rock and roll artists. I was into all that classic rock, the Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, and then some progressive rock like Yes or Emerson, Lake and Palmer, things like that. And then, later artists like Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen. And so I sort of have a tendency toward blues-based rock and roll myself. I grew up in the Mississippi Delta, I was surrounded by great blues artists, and I'm not a blues specialist by any means, but I tend to like that kind of music. And so, yeah, I don't even know that I could say a favorite record. It's like, yeah.
My first record was Bob Dylan, The Times They Are A-Changin', which my parents gave me with my turntable for Christmas that year. My favorite type of music is jazz, specifically hard bop jazz, which is a style of jazz that was being played a lot in the 50s and 60s on labels like Prestige, Blue Note, Riverside. So my favorite album is a toss-up between Miles Davis's Kind of Blue, which is like the quintessential jazz album, and it sounds a little silly for me to say that's my favorite because it's everybody's favorite, but there's a reason it's everybody's favorite. But it's a toss-up between that and the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street.
Good choices. So did you try to... My parents love classic rock. Like the 70s is when they went to college. So a lot of the bands that you mentioned, that's what we grew up on. And did you try to kind of impart your musical wisdom to your kids too?
I don't think I tried in any concerted effort. I think that, when I could, I was listening to music that I loved, and, if I saw that it was making them get up and dance, then, that was even sweeter. So,
but I think when we were kids, you listened to a lot of contemporary music.
Yeah, I guess so.
So like we were listening to what was cool at the time, more so than like what you were listening to when you were younger, don't you think?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the earliest bands we sort of connected with was Red Hot Chili Peppers, which that was really sort of because those guys are actually my age, that was sort of the fringe of like my college age. So I knew some of their music, but I didn't get into it as much until you started getting into it. So that was I think that was our first concert to go to together.
Yeah, it was my first concert.
We went to Gwinnett Arena and saw Red Hot Chili Peppers. Mm-hmm. You were like in 8th grade.
Yeah, I think I was 14 or 15.
Yeah, it was very fun. Anyway.
That's cool. I think my first concert was Earth, Wind, and Fire in Chicago. And for a while, we would see them every single year because they would come back every summer.
Mm-hmm. You saw them in Chicago or with Chicago?
With Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Sorry if I said in. No, it was in Atlanta.
Gotcha. Very cool.
But yeah, so those types of bands. And whenever songs come on and I know the words or I know who sang it or the title or whatever, my parents always go, "You know what that is?" I'm like, yeah, you taught me this. I knew it before I knew Britney Spears. So
that's great.
I think that's cool. But do you guys have any other... Okay, let me back up. What are your thoughts when people call this like retro or... I mean, I guess your name is Comeback Vinyl, so kind of plays into it.
Yeah, Comeback Vinyl, because vinyl made a comeback. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember how we got to that name, but...
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of thought or anything that went into it. I know that we just made sure no one else had that name, and we're like, yeah, well, let's do that one. We never thought it was going to be a store. We just thought it was going to be the name of this little booth. And I was like on Instagram, like, okay, I need a handle for the page. Like, what should we call the page? And that's where we landed on that. But... it's just sort of worked out.
I don't really think of it as a retro business myself. I mean, we do have a lot of old vintage records, that are 40 years old. But to me, that music is timeless. And we have a lot of new music. And, maybe half our store is new vinyl that are reissues as well as new music. But I don't really think of it as a retro vintage store.
Yeah, I sort of think it's a modern thing. I think you can kind of equate it to a lot of like the style of like industrial architecture that's kind of coming back right now, like the interest in Edison light bulbs or like leather boots or leather goods in general.
The whole mid-century modern thing.
Yeah, architecture looking mid-century modern. It's just like I was talking to my brother about this recently, and Karen mentioned he works at Google, so he's on the cutting edge of the tech industry and what's going on in that. And like you kind of mentioned, I'm sort of working in a retro field with records, and my focus is on the user experience, and his focus is on the user experience. But we're just talking about them in very different ways. And I think that one of the reasons why Edison light bulbs and leather boots and all these things from the past, like vinyl, are popular right now is because there's this super fast-paced development in the tech industry, and there's a little bit of like this, whoa, let's slow down. Like, let's don't forget about all these really good things. And I think there's also a little bit of a fear of the unknown of like, whoa, self-driving cars and like Alexa's in my living room and is listening to everything I say. Like, I'm not sure I'm okay with that. Let's like take a step back and like remember all the good things that are, are from the past. And so in a way, it is an older thing that has come back, sort of like Edison light bulbs, but it's still a very modern, current, trendy thing right now. So I don't really see it as all vintage. It's still very contemporary.
That's cool. So I'm supposed to ask about Jack White and his resurgence of vinyl and your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Jack White has a record label called Third Man Records. They have a location in Nashville, and they also have a location in Detroit that are like physical stores. And I think he has, I know he has a recording booth in the Nashville location and a stage in the Nashville location where they'll host concerts and record them. I don't know if he has that in the Detroit location, but they have a pressing plant in Detroit now, which just opened this past year. So they're pressing all their own records for Third Man Records. Everything Jack White, or pretty much everything Jack White, White Stripes has put out on Third Man. They also have some other bands that they've signed, and he's sort of on the cutting edge of trying to push the envelope on like what you can do with a record and what you can do with packaging. So when Lazaretto came out, I think it was in 2016, he had like 21 or something ridiculous like hidden tricks inside the record. Like there was an alternate start to one of the songs. So depending on like where you laid the needle down on the first track, you either heard it an acoustic intro or an electric guitar intro. That's never been done before. There's like a little angel that it's like a hologram that like comes up in the center of the record, like around the label when it's spinning. Like that's never been done before. They've put blood inside of a record. I think it was a Greenhorns album. Or maybe it was a Flaming Lips thing. Like a bunch of members of the band like drew blood from themselves and like put it inside of these records. So he's doing a lot of stuff that's kind of crazy, and I think there's a lot of collectors out there that think that's really cool, and he does a lot of pressing variants. He'll put out 100 copies on yellow vinyl, 100 copies on red vinyl, or whatever, and collectors want to have every copy. But yeah, he's like at the forefront of like pushing the medium forward, and he's super passionate about it, and he cares. He's not just like some talking head at a big shot record label that's just looking at numbers. He's totally involved in the community aspect of it and the collector aspect of it. And yeah, it's just really great to see,
That's cool. That's a different spin on it. No pun intended. I don't know if that really was a pun. But can I ask a dumb question? So every CD that comes out, or every album, not CD, every album that comes out, does it come out on vinyl? Or how?
That's not a dumb question. That's a very good question. And the answer is no. More and more they are, but not every time. Sometimes it'll be later on. Sometimes it takes, 20 years later. So,
yeah, it's happening more and more though. I think most rock albums are coming out on vinyl right now. Especially smaller, younger bands are putting their stuff out on vinyl.
There's a big competition though, to get, well, not really a competition, but the demand is so high that the pressing plants are cannot keep up with the demand. So it's not as easy to just say, I want my record on vinyl. And, if you're more of an obscure artist, up and coming, maybe you're not going to automatically get your release on vinyl.
And it's not cheap either. It's much harder to do for an indie act. They can burn CDs and sell them out of their booth at their shows for $5 a piece, but it'd be way more expensive to press a whole run of vinyl, because you can't make 50 records. You've got to do a larger run.
We had an interesting little field trip about 10, 11 months ago. We went over to Kindercore Vinyl. It's a vinyl pressing plant in Athens. It was really cool to see the machines, and they've got new machines. I think that Jack White actually uses the same ones at his.
Yeah, they're incredible. It's like a Swiss outfit that made them, and the software updates. So if like the machine is running hot, the guy said they'll get a text message from some dude in Sweden that's like been monitoring their machines and got an alert and like tell them like, hey, this machine's running hot. You need to cool it down by doing X, Y, Z. That's amazing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, that's a modern technology that's making an old medium. That's so cool.
It was very cool. They've got all the different colored vinyl, and just to watch it come down in this big blob, right, and then press it down, and how it all happens, and very cool experience. So those guys are doing great things over there, right down the road in Athens.
That's cool. So what is next for you guys? Do you have future plans, second location?
No, I don't think we're going to open a second location. We're very happy with where we are, and we just want to keep doing a really good job where we are. We're in the process of building our online business. We want to be able to make it more accessible for our local customers to shop from the comfort of their home or their workplace or wherever they are, because we recognize that you can't always get to us, and we also can't always be there. So if you're laying in bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night and you want to look at records, we want to be able to provide you with the local experience on the web. So you can still browse your local store selection, and you can still come into your local store when you get the chance. So that way we can provide our customers with both the convenience of the internet and still the in-store personable record store experience. So currently on our agenda for 2019 is just expanding our personal web store. We just got a new website, and we're working on uploading our entire inventory to that right now. It's a big process, but hopefully we'll have that done in like the next 6 months or so.
Great. Well, that is about all that I have. So before we say goodbye, the secret word to enter online is vinyl. Really creative, right?
Very good.
So thank you, Alex and Karen, for joining me today. And where can people find out more about Comeback Vinyl?
You can check us out on the World Wide Web, www.comebackvinyl.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for Comeback Vinyl. We're very active on social media.
Awesome. And you guys just switched your hours? Is that right?
We did. So we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sunday from 12 to 6.
Great. Well, anything else you guys like to mention?
No, thanks so much for having us. It's been a blast.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. We never get tired of talking about our shop, and we appreciate you having us on.
Thank you. Thank you again to the Alpharetta Convention and Visitor Bureau. Don't forget to check them out at awesomealpharetta.com, and be sure to find Made in Alpharetta anywhere you listen to podcasts, including on iTunes. You can keep up with me on Facebook by searching Kathleen Sturgeon, or on Twitter at KS Sturgeon. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.